Hey, what's going on, Summoners? My name is Nathan Ng, and today we'll be taking a look at some preseason 2022 first impressions. We'll be covering the preseason changes as well as how the community feels so far about everything that has been officially announced. There's a lot of content coming, so be sure to stick till the end. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and hop right into the video. Now, before we dive headfirst into the preseason content and breakdown, let's start off with some preseason information. Season 11's rank series will end on November 15th with the preseason coming soon after. And if you haven't reached your rank goals yet, be sure to grind up before it ends. Speaking of which, for those of you who have hit gold or higher, the new Victoria skin for this year is for Blitzcrank, and overall, everybody seems to agree that this is the best one yet. While Blitzcrank isn't a super popular champion, players all around still agree that the skin alongside its ranked chromas is definitely an improvement to the past few seasons. He's definitely grabbing everybody's attention. So, if you're looking to reap in the rewards of this season's rank climb, be sure to hit gold or higher for the free skin. And while we're on the topic of reaching rank goals, don't forget to check us out at ProGuides.com, where you can view our great catalog of challenger coaches that can personally create a walkthrough to your dream rank. Got a busy schedule? Well, we've got you covered. Our trained roster of coaches are here 24/7 to help you reach your goal, whatever that may be. So, what are you waiting for? Go check us out. Regardless, let's go ahead and get back into the video and dive right into some massive changes that have been confirmed for the preseason. There are a lot of cool changes being introduced on the PvE at the moment for testing, but one of the biggest and arguably the coolest changes are to the dragons. With the new preseason, Riot is looking to add in 2 more dragons, which will provide even more fluidity between games and make them feel less repetitive. That being said, a few players find this change a little bit weird since at the moment, games rarely reach that soul point long enough to matter. However, with these new dragons come not only new souls, but new buffs and environmental changes as well. Starting off with our new dragons, we've got the Chemtech Drake. This dragon pulls inspiration from the toxic depths of Zon with its green tinge and gas-like terrain effects. When slain, its buff grants bonus damage against enemies who have more current health than you, up to 5% increase in damage per stack. This essentially means that your team will do better at coming back from bad fights thanks to a little bit of extra damage. The soul of this dragon grants a buff that lets champions temporarily gain a second life after they die. You can compare this to somebody like Sion and his passive. The soul is really what is grabbing the attention of the community since it seems like it'll have far too much power. I mean, imagine having to kill the enemy team twice just to win a team fight. It seems like overall the community feels that it may have too much power since if you get Dragon Soul, it's likely that you have a little bit of a lead as well. Finally, taking a look at the terrain changes this dragon provides, it adds 4 gas zones in the jungle. These zones provide camouflage to any champion within them, which renders normal wards useless. In order to get vision in these areas, you'll need to place pink wards and or hit Scryer's blooms. This change seems a little bit more manageable as it offers some creative levels of play while also changing how you need to ward and watch the map. Moving on to the next dragon, we've got the new Hextech Drake. This dragon pulls its inspiration from the mechanical advancements of Piltover with its bright blue highlights and robot yet magical features. When slain, its buff grants 5 attack speed and 5 ability haste per stack. As for its soul, the team will gain a buff that adds a chain lightning slow to their basic attack and abilities. Think of it as a static shiv that slows. So far, there hasn't been much discussion regarding the soul because it's not as powerful as the Chemtech one. Finally, we've got the terrain changes that this dragon provides. With the Hextech Drake, new hex gates will appear across the map. After a brief channel, players will be allowed to teleport from one to another. These essentially work as a transportation channel for flank angles, warding, invading, and more. Just keep in mind that taking any type of damage will cancel the channel. Overall, the League community feels like this can be a fun new feature to explore, but they're still a little bit concerned by the effect that this may have when a team begins to snowball, as you can easily get vision and set up dives with it. It'll still be cool though, just to see how creative players can get with these new features. Before we continue on with the video, don't think for a second that we've forgotten about everybody's favorite ProGuides tradition. For our question of the day, we want to know, what is one new feature that you'd like to see on the PvE? Personally, I think it'd be pretty cool to have something similar to the old boot enchantments so we can go ahead and further customize for each game. Anyway, let us know your answers in the comments down below, and let's get back into the video. Some of the biggest changes announced for the preseason have got to be the items. Let's quickly take a look at them and why the community feels like they have such a big issue with their current state. Starting off with our new items, we've got the mythic Crown of the Shattered Queen, which is a new defensive mage item. The stat on these items are overall pretty massive, with it providing 70 AP, 250 HP, 600 mana, and 20 ability haste. But what's really upsetting players is its passive effect. If you have not taken champion damage in the last 40 seconds, you'll gain a safeguarded effect. During this effect, you gain a bonus of 10 to 40 ability power and reduce incoming damage by 50%. After a safeguard has been broken, its effect persists for 1.5 seconds after. This item means that assassins will have to be extra careful around long-range utility mages who opt for this item since their combo's damage will be cut in half. And don't forget, These mages can also build Zanyas. Overall, it seems like a lot of people are having issues with this item due to its power, even though it's essentially a 40-second cooldown. Our next and final new mythic is called Even Shroud. This item offers 200 health, 20 ability haste, 30 armor, and 30 magic resist, which is a pretty nice item for tank champions, specifically for tank supports. Its passive makes it so that after immobilizing champions or being immobilized yourself, the target and those around them take increased damage by 12% for the next 5 seconds. This means that when a champion like Rel or Leona dives into your team, they will not only offer strong CC, but they'll also debuff you and your entire team, so you're going to be easier to kill. That's all for our new mythic items, but we've still got a few great legendary items to cover, so let's quickly go over them. We won't be covering the item changes for the current items at the moment since they're still pretty volatile. For our new legendary item, we've got a powerful new option for mages called Shadow Flame. This item will grant 250 health and 80 ability power, but that's not where its true power is. Its Shadow Flame passive makes it so damage to champions benefit from 10 to 20 magic penetration based on the target's current HP, and this value will reach max if the target was recently shielded. This means that AP assassins will gain power as fights go on, and will finally have an answer to shield-heavy compositions like Seraphine and Sona. Next up, we've got a nice tank item for those of you who seem to run out of mana often. Its first form is Winter's Approach, and it is a new variation to the tier build path. Winter's Approach grants 400 health, 500 mana, and 15 ability haste. Similar to other tier items, it benefits from the Awe passive, which grants the holder bonus health equal to 8% of their mana. To stack this item, they must attack a target with an ability or an attack. Once it's fully stacked, it is transformed into Thimble Winter, which grants an additional 460 mana and adds a new passive called Everlasting. Everlasting makes it so immobilizing or slowing an enemy champion consumes 3% of your current mana and grants a shield for 3 seconds. This shield ranges from 100 to 200 based on level plus 5% of your current mana. If this doesn't sound strong enough yet, then don't worry. The shield is increased by 80% if more than one enemy is nearby, which is similar to the effect that Gargoyles grants. Overall, it's nice to see a new tank item that grants mana, and it's actually even better to see that the tier build path can be expanded. However, lots of players are worried about this item not only because champions like Singed are going to be using it, but because non-tank champions like Kassadin and Ryze may abuse its power and become unkillable. Maybe even Ezreal, who knows, that guy just builds whatever he wants nowadays. Last but certainly not least, we've got our final new assassin legendary, Axiom Arc. This item grants 55 AD, 10 lethality, and 25 ability haste, which makes it a pretty generic if not slightly weaker assassin legendary. However, its passive, Flux, throws that balance out the window by giving a Katarina-esque passive. Whenever a champion dies within 3 seconds of damaging them, you get refunded 25% of your ultimate's total cooldown. This item has a community broken into 2 sides. Some view it as an extremely overpowered item that can make it nearly impossible to deal with, especially as a squishier marksman. That being said, others feel like the 25% refund won't have much of an impact later on since assassin cooldowns are already so short and won't receive much benefit from it. Regardless of where you stand on this debate, I think we can all agree it's going to be a little bit hectic to balance. Keep in mind, these items are still subject to change and could be completely reworked at a moment's notice, and also, we didn't cover a lot of the other legendary changes such as adjustments to Frostfire and Chemtank, so be sure to check those out. But before we continue on, if you want to join an amazing community of people that loves lists, talk pieces, and other things like this, go ahead and check out our Discord using the link found in the description. So, what are you waiting for? Join! Nonetheless, let's go ahead and get back into the video and take a look at our final few changes and how the community seems to feel about them. Pulling us into the final portion of the video, let's quickly look at the 2 system changes that were announced. Starting us off with objective bounties. Yes, you heard that right. Objectives such as Baron, Dragon, and Herald and turrets will now be able to carry bounties. These bounties are calculated by XP lead, gold lead, dragon lead, and turret lead. The amount of base gold changes for different objectives depending on their importance, but can still be increased by up to an additional 60% if the enemy team is behind enough. These bounties have a 15-second warning period before they will become available and vice versa, but they will also have a 15-second lingering duration when they are going to vanish. This has also split the community in half, as some love the idea that now teams have powerful methods of catching back up and turning the game around with a comeback. Others feel like this gives the winning team far too much of a disadvantage, as they have to constantly and significantly press their lead if they're ever going to actually want to win the game. Overall, I kind of agree with the latter one because I feel like if you have a lead and you're doing something right, then you shouldn't be punished for that. Overall, we think it can be healthy for the game if it's managed correctly though. That being said, Riot is not most well known for a functioning bounty system. For our next system changes, we've got something pretty minor but still pretty impactful. The Rift Scuttler is getting nerfed so that it's not as impactful in the early game. Its health is being reduced by 35% and it will now grant 80% reduced experience. For all our junglers out there, it's no longer going to be the age of the double crab. Instead, you can now opt to invade for kills or go for a gank. This seems like a pretty massive nerf to a lot of jungle champions, but we'll have to see how it does with time. We finally made it, the last section of changes that have been finally confirmed for the preseason, the runes. Let's start us off strong with a brand new First Strike rune. This rune will sadly be replacing Omnistone in the inspiration tree. Sadly, I don't know. Who still uses that? If you damage an enemy champion with an attack or ability before they do, you're granted 5 gold and the First Strike effect for 3 seconds. During this effect, your attacks and abilities deal 12% extra damage and grant 100% for melee or 70% for ranged damage dealt as gold. This means that if you're able to attack the enemy first, you can easily rack up some extra gold in the mid game. This will take quite a bit of thinking before you can use it, but it'll also allow for some players to snowball. Next, we've got Lethal Tempo, and it's a nice rework. It now grants attack speed for 6 seconds when striking at least one champion with an attack. This effect can stack up to 6 times, and once it reaches its cap, you'll also gain bonus attack range and increase attack speed to the cap of 3.0. This is overall a nice quality of life change to Lethal Tempo, as not many champions were able to use it that well. It may seem like this opens up the possibility of champions like Kaisa to finally be able to have a strong rune in the early game. Now, finally, we've got a super cool upgrade to Glacial Augment. Immobilizing an enemy champion will cause 3 glacial rays to shoot out from them towards you and other champions. These in turn create a frozen zone that slows enemies by 40% and reduces their damage by 15% against their allies. While this essentially makes Glacial Augment even more of a support rune, it now has a better purpose than obnoxious early game harass and pick potential. Hopefully, with a few more adjustments, it can be a powerful rune for champions all around. With that closing us out, it seems like the community as a whole is pretty excited for the new season. Sure, there are a lot of changes that seem overpowered, but in general, it seems like the game will be heading somewhere more enjoyable. Anyway, that sums up our video for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to join our ProGuides family at ProGuides.com. We offer exclusive giveaways and classes that you won't be able to catch anywhere else, so stay tuned and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Well, we'll see you guys in the next video, but as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.